Hey everybody, Jimmy with the Triple C Collective here, and we've got episode 5 of Collected Conversations. And today, joining me is our guest, Erik Pflueger. Erik, say hello.
Oh, hi, everybody. And first and foremost, I want to note to the audience that you got the pronunciation right the first time. I happen to mention in the green room, folks, that I am cursed with this very heavy Middle European Germanic surname. I cursed my ancestors for it. And no matter if the question is how do you spell it or how do you pronounce it, the answer is the same, with great difficulty, if at all. And good on you for managing it right out of the gate.
I do my best.
Mhm.
But Erik, as the people at home can see, got some comic book covers here from Quick Stops. And that's kind of where
Don't
I
recognize them.
and that is where I kind of first recognize your art is through the Quick Stops covers. And then I see you active in the Kevin Smith groups with like Andrew Thomas and a bunch of the other collaborators from the comics of Quick Stops and Masquerade and everybody. And then I reached out to you and I asked you if I could get you to commission my mother-in-law's favorite picture of her and my father-in-law.
You
And
did, you
so
did.
and so that's what I did. I had you produce a two wonderful pictures, one of my mother-in-law and one of my father-in-law based off that original picture, and it is basically we've kind of been friends ever since. And you have graciously agreed to allow me to do an interview with you, and
And
I am very excited that we've finally been able to get this going and start this
and you
interview
have
here.
graciously allowed me to come on and do the interview.
Of
Now let's
course,
hope I can do something worthy of the invitation. Because for all I know, I could turn out to be very boring. But
I I have a slight doubt in that you
mm,
being a boring person. But what I do like to do, and part of the point of collected conversations is why I talk to different people from different creative realms. Previously, we've talked to a couple of writers, my buddy Chris, Dave Scheidt, to also talk to another artist, Scoot McMahon. And so now we've got yourself. And part of it is we like to talk about how you became the artist that you are today. And so the first thing, like any tale, or I mean, I'm a big fan of superheroes. So like in any superhero tale, what's your origin? Where does art first kind of happen for you? Is it handed down from like family? Is it school? Is it
mm.
like where's your origin in art?
Well, first of all, I came from a dying planet. Our sun was dying, so my parents sent me off here as an infant. Um, in all honesty, that's a very difficult question to answer for me. But the most important thing I suppose I could say is that I don't know if I've ever had a life without the arts in it. Um, Perhaps it was something I was born with, perhaps not. But I'm conscious of no point in my life in which I wasn't interested in it or doing it. Uh, if you were to look at any of my work from when I was a single digit age child, assuming any of that still survives, some of it has, you would know that no, none of that lines up with the work that you see now. Not a bit of it. Uh, and what that means and what that points to, I should also say that my family is not incredibly invested in the arts itself, but my mother did have some interest in it, paints mostly recreationally when she does. She just turned 87 and still very active. Um,
Happy birthday.
yes. Well, I had nothing to do with it, really. She had something to do with mine, but that's a different matter. Um, so sometimes a predisposition within the family helps, but it does not guarantee it. A certain natural inclination to doing it helps, but it does not guarantee it. What does is continuous, steady persistence in it. My childhood work doesn't line up with my adult work, and the reason the change happened is because I never, not once, stopped. I always continued to develop it. Uh, I had teachers, I had mentors, I had an arts education. I went to Ringling, and that should also point out something. You don't do this alone. It is not, I may or may not be an auteur in the classic sense, but even if I were, others matter in this. Others contribute to this. Art school is not cheap, but and Ringling certainly wasn't. I can't imagine it is now. Uh, but support from others means everything. In that case, my parents gave of themselves and gave a great deal in order to make that happen. And that's before we even get to any actual work. And that is that no man is an island. It does sometimes take a village to raise an artist. And in this case, it certainly does. It probably does for a great deal of people. There are very few people who push their way upwards alone. That doesn't exist. It's a myth. It's an intriguing, almost romantic myth. It's not real.
Yeah. Even with everything here that we do at the Triple C, I don't do it alone. I've got a wonderful team with Colin and Crowley behind me that we make the magic happen.
Well, they're not the higher, but my comics are behind you now. They're not there. But
That's
yeah,
fair.
we are nothing without our support structures, as simple as way to put it.
Absolutely. So,
Or our coffee. But
uh, hey, coffee is a major player in everybody's life, or at least it is in mine. But aside from your parents making sacrifices, making sure that they could get you to school and into school and stuff while you were at school, were there any kind of teachers or instructors that kind of either helped you hone your talent or kind of pointed you in a direction of, hey, you kind of have this style, maybe look at this stuff, or kind of nudge you in a way to kind of even open up your style maybe a little bit more than what you were currently doing?
the answers to that are twofold. In terms of Ringling, um, I was still I was still undeveloped then. I didn't develop until substantially after Ringling, and I'll tell you how momentarily. But when it comes to what Ringling did for me, it made me begin to realize, yes, that art has a broader definition than you think. And I've talked about this in the past. I made a terribly good lecture about this in the past, and I probably will again, assuming you and I do more repeat business, and I expect we will. But on one particular morning, I believe in my second uh, year there at Ringling,
Mm-hmm.
I got up, got out of bed, dragged a comb across my head, and went to the campus and attended an art history lecture, which I do regularly, usually powered by extremely shitty coffee, but or hot cocoa, which is mostly water. But the art history lectures could be counted on to be interesting. History is important. History is something that informs what I do, uh, very much so. But in this particular case, these two lecturers, Rice and Dean, one of whom was a very tall, particularly burly gentleman with a very uh, prodigious beard, rather like your own, hair rather like your own, although a bit fuller up the top, very black hair, and with a much deeper voice and all that, and in a way that was almost comical, if it weren't so deadly serious. And there was a keyboard, a piano on the stage, the lecture stage this morning. Ooh, we're gonna get music? He's like, I'm gonna play you something by John Cage. And let me actually make certain that I'm going to get the title of this piece right, thanks to the wonder that is Wikipedia. Yeah, the typing, it just allows the theater of the mind thing to happen. All right. Now, what I'm curious about is, could you still see my face while I was doing that? Because I'd gotten yours out to pull up the Wikipedia page. I like modern science. Um, so what happened is he's like, all right, I'm going to play you with this piece. And he cracks his fingers like so, as if he's going to do the whole Victor Borga, Gould act with this thing.
Mhm.
And then he puts his hands over the keyboards and just holds them there over the keys for an interminable amount of time. A minute goes by, nothing. 2 minutes goes by, literally nothing. 3 minutes go by, nothing. Except the audience, us, the people in the lecture hall, beginning to first have nervous twitters, things like that,
Mhm.
beginning to laugh, beginning to just dissolve into conversation. So, who'd you like in the game tonight? Anything to fill the empty space, which is precisely the point. And then 4 minutes and 33 seconds later, he stops, gets up from the keyboard, and goes, "So, what'd you think?" Now, this is as avant-garde as it gets, but there is a surprisingly important point to it. The instrument he was playing was not the keyboard. The instrument he was playing was the audience.
Mhm.
You understand?
Yeah.
And as Cage originally wrote it, the audience, what they do to fill the ambient space, what they say, what noises they make, those sounds, that's the piece. And my mind was blown because it suddenly it introduced what I say is, as James Joyce calls it, a state of aesthetic arrest.
Mhm.
In order for that to make any sense in this context, I have to define what I believe Joyce defined art as. Art is the human disposition of sensible or intelligible matter for an aesthetic end. Sensible, the things you can sense, hear, see, taste, smell, so on.
Mhm.
Intelligible matter, the concepts you can think. These are all the raw materials for art. In this case, this was intelligible matter. This was a concept, the idea that it was the audience that was the instrument, not the keyboard, not the artist. Oh, whoa. I was totally Neo, and I went there,
Mhm.
and my mind was blown. And you could see how that can suddenly produce a far broader comprehension of what art is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Now, I told you that story to tell you this one, because you also asked about how did my actual style develop, the one that currently is sitting on the covers behind you. Again, it takes others. In this particular case, I had a tattoo internship for a brief time, and my destiny didn't end up lying there. But what did happen is that was the circumstance that produced a very profound uh, reconsidering of what my style should be. And what I compare it to, in terms you probably would understand as a reference, is I compare it to Neil Peart uh, leaving his rock drumming style behind and going to uh, tutor under a jazz drummist and completely deconstruct and then rebuild his style from the ground up.
Yeah.
And I maintain that my style, the developed style, does indeed look the way it does, because yeah, a tattoo artist would think of that style. It's read through my filters, it's interpreted through my experience, it's configured to my sensibilities. But yes, and that's the best answer I can give you.
Excellent.
And I
That's
thought I'd be
great.
boring.
Excuse me. Um,
Talk to me, coffee.
I guess then I guess leading into like your schooling and stuff, like you said, art was always with you. You always kind of did it. Was there a certain point though in your life where, or a certain like, did you see a piece of art, hear a piece of music, see a movie or something that you were like, I'm going to be an artist now? And that's where like, that's what then sent you eventually to go to Ringling and get these lectures and learn that style and then become that tattoo artist.
You're looking
And
for a singular point of origin, and alas, lives aren't so constructed all the time. Um, I perhaps purchasing The Art of Star Wars in 1978 when I would have been about 6.
okay.
I even remember the Walden books I was at when I got it. I remember beating the absolute shit out of it and having to have it rebound in spiral because it was a soft cover. I
Mhm.
have since purchased how many copies of that now? 4. Because I learned from that experience as a book collector that you have to get at least one that you could beat the absolute cheese out of, and then one that you could keep intact.
Mhm.
And then if you're in really frisky form, a couple of extra just for luck. And one of those is a hardcover and it is never opened.
There you go.
Actually, screw it. Let me just show you the damn thing.
There you go.
Yep,
Oh,
see,
that's so great.
I
Ah,
love books.
they're great. That's so awesome.
But in answer to your question, what happened there is that, okay, you see a movie,
Hmm.
you block the camera with my thumb. There we go. You try to get it to balance and not fall over. Sometimes you fail. Then you pray it works. Okay, sit. Good dog. You see a movie. You see all these images within the movie. You're blown away by the images within a movie. It happens to you all the time. Uh, it's another when you're that age to be then given access to the fact that these are man-made images, that quite often it takes a creative impulse to make those. It's more than just about a man deciding to write and direct a movie.
Hmm.
And okay, that probably would have been the activating spark. I want to be an artist now thing. I might also add that because the design in Star Wars is very detail oriented, it's not very general. It's all about buttons, it's all about textures, it's all about leaky oil, scuff on the floor, things of that nature. That's one of the reasons why I feel my work is so detail oriented. Couldn't be otherwise. It's like, ooh, because if you have the mind for it, it helps being on the spectrum, I might add. If you have the detail-oriented mind, you're studying the way that oil drips down, the way those buttons look, which ones
Hmm.
flash and which don't, the scuffs on the floors and on the walls, all of that. And because what was the point of all of that design work in the film? To make the impossible feel real.
Right.
That's why the X-Wings were dirty and beaten up. That's why the TIE fighters look the way they did, why every set looked the way it did. Um, that's a good that's a good way of answering your question, I think.
Yeah. Art of Star Wars. Seeing how like again, one of the things for like our other podcast commentary track, I do that because I call it commentary track because that's how I learned about filmmaking and movies and how how they make it, how the sauce is made and all that kind of stuff.
Those are very
Um
rewarding.
Oh, it's super rewarding. And then seeing that and then being able to replicate it in your own way is also just as rewarding as well.
Mm.
Um,
But it's
so
in the end, it's not about replicating. It's about finding your
right.
own voice and the information you get from all of these other sources. All that does is simply inspire. But in the end, you must be you.
Yes, you've got to have your own voice. You got to find your own path
Precisely.
for that. Um, Now with that, talking about Star Wars, that's something that it is a common bond between us of something that we love. What other influences? Like you talked about James Joyce, as well. Is there any other kind of writers, artists, filmmakers, bands or anything like that, even video games
Hmm.
that you felt like influenced you or helped inspire you like that as well?
I should mention that video games are completely off the table with me. I last played a video game, oh, there I am, in the age of N64, and that was some time ago, decades, in fact.
Yep.
So that would be an unrealistic expectation for me. Not to bag on video games, just that they're outside of my experience. But that's okay. A lot of the things that inspire me are outside of other people's experience. Vive la différence. Um, Obviously, movies, that's the most common way of conveying visual information these days. Music, yes. Uh, Opera, certainly. Uh, I listened to my first Ring cycle at the age of 17, and I became a perfect Wagnerite, as George Bernard Shaw put it, ever since. Um, Wagner was a raging asshole, and like so many artists today, we're caught in a terrible quandary of under not separating the art from the artist, but being aware of both
Mm-hmm.
and trying to balance the two in the mind. And it's very difficult, particularly with Wagner. He was a raging racist, and at the same time, his music elevates. Uh, as far as less controversial sources of inspiration, you asked about writers. I learned about James Joyce by way of Joseph Campbell. And boy, Campbell gets a lot of play. Yes, because he influenced Star Wars, but I might also add that he influenced a great deal of other artists and creators. He inspired Richard Adams when he was writing Watership Down. He inspired the creator of Rambo,
Mm-hmm.
who, when he was writing the novel First Blood, that later became the Sylvester Stallone film, David Morrell. Phew, flaked like a box of cereal for a moment. Campbell influenced Morrell to write the character of John Rambo. He influenced the Blue Man Group. Uh, a lot of people took influence from Campbell, but Campbell himself took influence from Joyce. Um, so I have to say that my understanding of Joyce is delivered to me secondhand. Be aware of that. Um, as far as novelists go, for understandable reasons, I appreciate novelists that can paint word pictures very well. And the three that come foremost to mind are Anne Rice, uh, when she was in her prime. Mem Not the Devil is my favorite novel of hers. Uh, Clive Barker, you're probably familiar with that writing style. Same rules apply. But first and foremost, the novelist Thomas Harris, the creator of Hannibal Lecter, whose prose style didn't really get that baroque until he wrote the third Lecter novel, Hannibal, and its sequel, Hannibal Rising, both of which come in for a certain amount of critical flack, undeservedly, in my opinion, because the language is just gorgeous. And just as an example, he describes the Uffizi Gallery in Florence with its profusion of crucifixion and deposition paintings as, quote, that meat house of hanging Christs, unquote. And
Yeah.
it doesn't take much to create a word picture, but when they do, it's wondrous. And yes, if you can paint a good word picture, then you absolutely can influence somebody in the visual arts uh, accordingly.
Yeah,
Ta-da.
those are three great choices. Um, Excellent. Uh, so with working and getting stuff before you even get stuff published, what is some adversity that you've maybe had to try and overcome? Like you hear writers, they have writer's block, where stuff just doesn't come
Mm.
out onto the page. They're just staring at a blank page like that. Have you ever experienced a drawing block or
Always. It happens
oh,
quite a lot.
yeah?
Hell, I had to deal with one just last week. Sometimes you can just get physically exhausted, and that does the trick. Sometimes mentally exhausted, sometimes emotionally, sometimes just creatively. There's nothing there. But, and I must stress this, you're supposed to work anyway. Nothing in the tank, everything in the tank, it doesn't matter. You have a job to do.
Hmm.
And that does not change. You have a duty, you have a responsibility to your clients when they're there. You have a responsibility to yourself, to your legacy, to keep creating. Sometimes you simply must push through it. It doesn't matter if there's nothing in the tank. Push the car forward if we're doing metaphors here.
Hmm.
You have to. Uh, shit's got to get done. And slightly lost my train of thought. My train of thought derailed and killed several passengers.
Well, no, because it's about like the idea of overcoming adversity, whether it be like having a drawing block or
Ah,
even when
there
you.
I go. The train's back on the track now. Thank you.
Yep.
Overcoming adversity. Well, first of all, there's the adversity of being on the spectrum. Autism can indeed be a strength, a source of extraordinary strength. But first, you must learn to master it. It's not easy.
No.
Uh, but to all of you on the spectrum out there, it is not fatal and it can produce great things. Embrace it. Um, Lack of resources, lack of equipment, lack of time, all of these things matter. The most recent Quick Stops cover, the one you held up, that that was something I was flogging myself for because I was physically sick at the time and I was under a gun that otherwise wouldn't have been there.
Hmm.
Um, with the one on my left, your right, behind you, um, I was given a little bit more time, and I absolutely needed that time for that one because I had to design a demon cow's sculpture
Hmm.
uh, from scratch and have it be something that
I love
that
it.
yes, that one.
Mhm.
Yeah, you knew which one the moment I said demon cow.
Mhm.
Um, you never know that cow might appear again. Who's to say? But I might add parenthetically that that's one of the image I am most proud of.
It's a
And
great one.
if
It,
that's the one I am known for and remembered for, I'll take it.
it,
We
it,
don't
it,
get
it
to choose what our legacies are sometimes. But if I'm, oh, the guy that created Bafo Moob for Kevin, all right, I'll take
Mhm.
that in a heartbeat.
So, you know what? Let me ask this, not necessarily about the covers just yet, but pitching in general or like working with a different client and stuff, like adversity in that have you ever really bumped heads with somebody where like you guys talked, you had an idea, you presented like, I don't know, let's call it a first draft or like, a final draft of something, and it
Hmm.
was like maybe not what the client maybe had expected in their mind, or some kind of disconnect in that. Is there anything that you have experienced like that you've had to like kind of overcome and then still be able to get the job done and finish it, or was it like one of those creative differences where people just walk away then?
Happens all the time. And It's not an adversity. It's not a challenge. It's a part of the process. Um, it just naturally is a part of the process. You cannot expect the mind of the artist and the mind of the client to be in the same place at the beginning. It just isn't.
Hmm.
They sometimes have a certain difficulty in communicating what they want. It's not their fault, even. It's finding the language that makes me, the artist, go, oh, okay. And in the case of the covers, I was given a rather free hand. That's not common, though. Uh, Also, the kind of work I do outside of that doesn't really bring that into play. If I'm doing architectural renderings, the differences come at the angle I'm drawing the building at, say.
Hmm.
It doesn't come it doesn't come from creative differences. That's more of a Hollywood term, and I don't necessarily think it applies to me.
Okay.
Um, T-shirt artwork, you hash all of that out in the rough sketch stage. Same with illustrations, same with architectural renderings, interior or exterior. It and you develop a system that ideally accounts for that in a way that is the most painless to you as an artist and the most painless to them as the client. Work it all out in the pencil sketch phase, the thumbnail sketch stage. Um, that way, you've expended less time, less effort, and, well, particularly time. And accept going in that there will be a point possibly where they have to change their mind in a late stage. You have to just run with it. It's unprofessional not to. You go, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, I'll be right on it. Often while juggling other projects.
I mean, that isn't that how it always goes? You're always spinning a couple of plates.
You
At least I
have
feel like
to,
I am.
and you have to be diverse in what you can do in this business because, especially these days, you can specialize yourself into oblivion.
Hmm.
You could be good at that one thing, but heaven help you if that one thing suddenly has its job done by someone else or something else. That's as far as I'll get into whole AI issue, but that's quite enough, I think. I've hinted at enough. Um, Simply put, do as many different things as you can, as well as you can. Be prepared to roll with the punches as well as you can, and as quickly as you can. The point is to make the client happy,
Hmm.
not you. There are times and places where you can make yourself happy as an artist. But first and foremost, it's about them, their needs. And that's before we even get to discussing the more mercenary idea that it's their money you're trying to earn, not get, earn with your hard work. Make it worth it. Make it worth their time. Make it worth their interest in you. Make it worth their trust in you. And do what they need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, let's also then move into some of your published work. Do
Yes.
you do you remember what your first published piece was? If it was, I mean, if it was something in school or even post school, no matter what, published work is published work. That makes you a professional.
You'd think. But the earliest one I can remember is I look inward. Remember, you probably wouldn't remember this. You're too young. There was a time in the 80s when the Statue of Liberty was being renovated. Uh, uh, Not taken down and rebuilt from scratch, of course. And, but reinforced in the areas where the structure was weak,
Mhm.
cleaned in many areas, not in a way as to remove the patina that was meant to be there. And I was disappointed in that. I was expecting it to glow brilliant copper for a while before the patina came back. But no. Um, the USA Today newspaper back then was having an art contest in the newspaper.
Okay.
And for the very first time, I decided to be daring enough and enter it. And I'm going to again go to Wikipedia just to find out when that was, because it means a lot.
Yeah.
Um, Statue of Liberty. Thank you, Wikipedia. Um, Construction in France, renovation and rededication. Okay, I am almost there. Of course, scrolling down a Wikipedia article is rather boring from where I stand and from where your watchers and listeners stand. 1986.
1986.
So again, I would have been 14.
Wow. 14.
And
Nice.
here's what happened. In my age group, I won first place. And I didn't expect that. I don't think the piece deserved that now. But okay, when you're 14, okay, fine.
We're
And
our own harshest critics.
yes, but deserved in this case. Um, and what happened is I won myself and my family a trip to New York for Liberty Weekend to
It's so
attend the
awesome.
rededication ceremonies there, which meant being able to view the running of the tall ships in the harbor and to view a spectacular fireworks display
Oh, I bet.
in which the president, Ronald Reagan at the time, was present, although very, very, very far away. And I'm using this hand because all of that dais would have been many, many rows of seats to my left at the time.
Yeah.
What I most fondly remember is going to the Forbidden Planet bookstore in New York,
Oh, that had
and
to have been cool.
it was huge, and I lacked money at the
Yeah.
time, but there was a certain never again quality to it. I encountered my first Giger art book there. Oh, it was 1986 because Aliens had just come out, and so he was in the attention space. Thank you. Um, oh God, memories. And Giger is another influence. Not one that I copy, but I'm inspired by. Got my
Hmm.
first Giger book there. It was Necronomicon 2. And in my uh, bookshelves behind me, you will find probably 8 or so books since that original copy was itself beat to shit, as I keep
Hmm.
saying. But these are all nice hardcovers. Thank you, Morpheus International. Um, so that would have been my first published encounter now that I think about it. And I frankly had forgotten all about it. Okay, good for you. Now I'm in
That's
touch with my youth again.
that's so cool. Like that is excellent. That your first piece was produced at 14. That's awesome. For the New York Times, and like
No,
you
no,
got a
USA Today.
or I'm
No.
sorry, USA Today, but like you
Oh, if it had
still
been the
got flown
Times,
out,
oh God.
but you got flown out to New York and stuff, like your whole family. That's so
Hmm.
cool. That's awesome.
I still resent my sister because she wanted to go to FAO Schwartz afterwards, and I didn't get to spend the amount of time in Forbidden Planet that I would have liked.
Mm,
But it's a loving resentment because she's adorable and I adore her. Um, I must talk to mom about it. She's still around. Um, Quite a memory. So that's my answer to that question.
excellent. Now, one thing that you've kind of hinted on a little bit, your architectural renderings and everything, you have your own company, Cygnus Arts.
Hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Not
Where did you
not
start
sick
that?
ass farts, which is what some people like to joke that it's pronounced like. I'm like, shut up. There's a little story there. the founding of the thing is just completely boring and hardly worth mentioning, but I will give you a cute little story. Um, I named it from two things. One is from LucasArts because I had Star Wars on the brain.
Hmm.
That's why it's Cygnus Arts with one word, but two capitals, C and A, because that's how LucasArts did it. Is it still around? I don't even know. Um, Many Lucas organizations, but I don't know about that one. Why Cygnus Arts? Well, when you grope for a name, you really don't sometimes have an idea. And to just do AAA art or something like that simply because it'll be the first thing people see in the phone book, as if that's even a thing anymore, that's just cheap.
Hmm.
And I thought it beneath me. I shouldn't have because I didn't have anywhere near enough going on to have that much pride. But okay, that was my thinking. And one of the films I have a special sort of guilty pleasure and sometimes not so guilty pleasure for was The Black Hole, 1979. And the name of the big ship in that is the Cygnus. And
Oh my gosh.
which is an, again, it's a bizarre thought process to which name a company that you've had for 1990, 30 years at this point, near or there.
There you go.
And I might add that that too is something you don't do without supportive family, because, I certainly don't have the capital to establish a company, and it is still going. In the last few years, it has lacked the ability to go strong, although a lot of companies can make the same complaint right now. Everything is in flux. But I will do the mercenary thing and give people contact information in case you want to commission something. It's been a slightly more successful year this year than the past several. And it needs to be, or why not just fold the thing? But keep hope alive and always fight. Hard work and persistence, I might add, is essential. The world is filled with talented people who go nowhere because of no persistence, no willingness to do hard work. And there are many hardworking people that we may like consider less talented that are nonetheless out there because they're not afraid of hard work. You have to balance both. That's my story
Absolutely.
about that. It's rambling and it goes from subject to subject, but I'm a gambler and a rambler, and I guess I always will, as the song goes.
There you go.
Mm.
No, but that's so awesome. I'm glad you told us because that was something that like I wanted to hear about, just like personally. Um, Now, one other thing I wanted to ask you about is any of your work being put up in a gallery or anything like that. Have you ever have,
Um,
have you ever had that, or have you ever had somebody asked to showcase your work before?
Still working on that. I came very close. I did have an opening one time here in town. Naples does have a thriving arts appreciation community. It could be more thriving, frankly. And as with so many places, it's all about punching upward to get into it. It's very difficult. In my case, I did have one opportunity, and then a week later, COVID happened.
Oh,
And that's just bad timing.
yeah.
Um, but as a matter of fact, we are working on that, changing that. Because COVID drove everybody into their shells, and I had a great deal of emotional turmoil going on at the same time, and that too drives one into their shell, and you have to heal from that, and that takes time. But when you do, you have to come out swinging. Um, During the Halloween season this year, I was in the Dark Arts 2025 exhibition in Fort Myers. Nobody bought
Nice.
anything, but we're working on that too. But I did manage to get the people who ran that place, the Sydney and Byrne Davis Art Center. they said, "Oh my God, you have to have a solo show here. You have to have a solo show here." So I began pestering them.
Nice.
I said, "Hi, one of the people who works here said I need to have a solo show. Here's my stuff. Here's my stuff. Here's my stuff. Here's my stuff." The point being gentle, steady, persistent pressure. And I believe I will have a solo show in mid 27. And
Nice.
it may take that long. And that means that in addition to everything else I'm doing, I need to push out a few more pieces just to have some for change. They need 40, I have 40, but there are a few I want done in the meantime.
I mean,
And
so like, let me ask this. You've shared some of your art before with me. Um, Gotta ask, are you gonna put up any of those stormtroopers? The stormtrooper helmets? Can you put that up? Are you allowed to?
I wish I knew how for purposes of this discussion. Um, Ladies and gentlemen, what he's referring to is a little sketch I did just where, as a means of trying to apply gentle, steady pressure to Acme Archives, the people who have official licensed Star Wars artists, to notice me, to notice me, to notice me. Why am I repeating myself? Again, to get the point across of gentle, steady pressure.
Mhm.
To be willing to be annoying, but in a way that's polite.
Right.
Balance, you see. There we go. Getting a little backlit there. So I did, as part of that process, just a sketch where the progress of stormtrooper helmet technology progressed over time, and by that I mean visually. And when you line them up all together from their earliest beginnings in Attack of the Clones all the way to the very end in The Rise of Skywalker, it makes a certain logical sense.
Mhm.
Um, in that case, research matters. And as to the question of whether I can publish it, I may have to, but we're talking about a licensed property. The
Mhm.
rights holders, quite correctly, have to have a say in it.
That's fair.
I'm given an exceeding amount of leeway with Kevin, but that's because of the kind of person Kevin is. Uh, he's not a man that comes with mercenary lawyers. He deals with you directly, and he gives you a great deal of creative freedom. Very few notes, if any. But when it comes to rights holders like Disney and Lucasfilm, we're talking about a different beast. Uh, Different rules apply, and politeness as well as persistence matters. So there's that.
Absolutely. So then, before we get into the View Skewverse, is there anything else like you've shown me even like some band art before? How did that happen? Like how does like an album art happen for you? Like
Mm,
do you know the band? Does this band like see your art on like, you know, social media or even your website and they're like, "Hey,
mm.
we want to reach out to this guy." How does even that happen?
Well, in my particular case, there are no large bands, no bands outside the state, few bands outside the city. Um, in that case, I am a small fish in a small pond. And in that environment, first of all, you have to get your work out there somehow. So, yes, sometimes they see it and then come to me. Sometimes you just know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy. It could be as simple as your pot dealer has a band or something along those lines. Uh, and you do something for that. And then you do another band's album and another then besides, and another after that, another after that. Um, Knowing people, in other words, is what does that. Everything else follows from that. You have to get your work out there, and you have to, again, be persistent about it. Everything comes back to that, doesn't it? And it should. That's a uh, that's a crucial point. Um, as far as bands, none of the bands that I did work for are in existence except for one, and that's Red Hannah, and you might want to look them up. Um, they're still going strong. They too took a blow recently with the health of one of their members being under threat, and he's now fine, and they're gradually restoring their themselves and moving forward. And encourage them to continue to come back to me because they have a beautiful, really cool science fiction universe idea that they have me illustrating things for. And give them a nudge, folks. Maybe they'll keep at it.
Right
And
hand
good
on.
luck to
Yeah.
them.
Excellent.
So now on to the meat and potatoes of the matter.
The view skew work. So
Yes.
how does this happen? How
Um,
how do you get, because you've shown me some art of you doing stuff for like Hollywood Babylon. You've shown me stuff for quick stop. Like obviously we've got the quick stops covers and stuff
mm,
here. How do you meet Kevin? How do you get involved with Hollywood Babylon? How do you get involved with the quick stops? How does all of that start?
um, that is where persistence and gentle, steady pressure truly come to the forefront of things. Um, I might add that I was actually a late comer to Kevin's work, relatively speaking, um, roughly around the year 2000. And
Okay.
the work of his that I saw first was not one of his live action films, it was Clerks the Animated Series. And it was simply because there were friends over and they had a copy, and you just want something to watch when you're drinking. And I thought it was hysterical. Bears driving,
Mhm.
um, car full of midgets. The I thought it was absurd. It was and it was very amusing. Uh, whether that is typical of his humor because it was meant to be an animated adult sitcom,
Mhm.
that's another matter. And as anyone will tell you that knows Kevin's work, there is a great deal more going on there. The animated series is not the exemplar of his work. His films are. They are, in fact, deeply personal. Uh, they have great depth to them. They have great emotional heft. Um, to complement his work would add another hour to the discussion. Uh, but before we get to Kevin, per se, there is somebody very special who needs to be shouted out to. Um,
Absolutely.
and that is Ralph Garman. I got into the Kevin fold through Ralph, through the Hollywood Babylon podcast. And how do I put this? That too required gentle, steady pressure. Uh, and the fact that Babylon had a fan art submissions program, which I did.
Right.
And I remembered the USA Today incident that we mentioned earlier. You shouldn't be shocked at the possibility, I tell myself, that they might like you if you
Yeah.
submit something to them. Or as Kevin says, Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots you never take.
Hmm.
And Kevin's career is defined by being willing to take those shots. But with those um, with those influences firing me, I made the decision to start sending in work, small at first.
Yeah.
And because they were doing a character act called The Germans, where Ralph is all hostile and militaristic and, oh, we're here to conquer the world. And
Yep.
Kevin is the more demure, no, Germans are nice. I saw an opportunity there because I know my history. I know my history well,
Hmm.
as well as any well-read layman can. I can be overwritten at a stroke by an accredited historian, and I need to point that out. but I knew it enough to be able to tread that minefield with relative safety.
Yeah.
And I said, I can stake my claim here. And so I did. So I made the piece. Ralph liked it. He put it on the show. Kevin liked it. It put me on the map. But what happened that distinguishes Ralph in this regard is he contacted me after the fact around the holiday season and said, Kevin is really interested in that piece of yours. Can I purchase it for him? And that was a bit of a shocker. And in doing so, in that one simple decision, Ralph gave me a career, gave me any notoriety I have, gave me a name, gave me a place on the map. Ralph did that.
That's awesome.
He didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
He paid generously. I won't say what, but I will say this. He gave my grandchildren a Christmas that year. He
That's
gave my
awesome.
grandchildren a Christmas the following year. And therefore, I will never not say this. Patient zero is Ralph Garman. I am nothing without Ralph Garman's decision to give Kevin a gift.
That's so awesome.
It needs to be said. And I will always say that because I never want anyone to have the impression, least of all Ralph, that I used him to climb a ladder of some sort.
Right.
If that was the tangible result, um, fine. But he did it because he was kind,
Yeah.
because he was generous, because he is a good person. Everything else follows from that. Now, having said that, I will confess that I almost feel like a bit of a con man, almost sociopathic about it because I had studied Kevin and his thinking process for some time. He has a tendency to be impressed by artists. He has a tendency, if he finds you useful, to keep you around. There was a certain matter of profiling your target, your mark. And I
Right.
feel shitty in saying that. I mean, if the end result is that art gets into the world, I shouldn't feel too guilty. But, and he has always been a patron of artists. He says the act of a creative person inspires creativity in others.
Hmm.
And he has done that repeatedly. In fact, I will say parenthetically that he he once did a routine on stage that you'd probably be familiar with, where he said, "You gotta love your art." And he said that at a time when I didn't, when I
Hmm.
had been burned out quite extensively. I didn't love my art. Not then I didn't. And because I knew he was correct and I didn't feel that way, I felt shame. But I mean, because Kevin made a point of saying, "Oh, I don't want you to feel ashamed about something." That's not what the result ended up being. Shame can be a motivating factor. It can
Yes.
provide fuel. It can revive the engine. And it did. At a time when I didn't love my art, Kevin reminded me of my duty. Again, a rambling answer, but I've been a gambler and a rambler, and I guess I always will. Uh, and having found an opportunity, the right piece at the right time for the right audience, and the right man in the center of it, Ralph, everything else happened.
That's so awesome.
Then, not to be outdone,
No.
having established a rapport with Ralph, out of no, I kept doing that. Gentle, steady, pressure, sending in more pieces, piece after piece. Finally, I managed to do the piece that tipped Kevin personally over the edge, so to speak, and that was a picture of him and his mother Grace.
Oh, okay.
That's a story of the story of that being created, I have to wait for another time. But I presented to him personally. I presented personally to Ralph a piece of young Ralph and Adam West because
Oh man, I'm sure Ralph loved that.
I would have to send you these images after the fact. Perhaps they can be edited in over us
Absolute. If you
talking,
send
and
them, if you send
my
them to me, we can get them in.
anything is better than my resting bitch face, which is just there because I'm a Spectrum boy. I'm not really that mean.
You're absolutely fine.
Um, Again, gentle, steady pressure.
Hmm.
Eventually, it gives way. Then Kevin contacted me personally. Hi, hit me up at such and such an email that I shall not reveal.
Yep.
Yeah. And then things began to follow from there. I got in touch with him. He got in touch with me. I did finally meet him face to face at a shoot he was doing in Sarasota with my old alma mater at Ringling. Um, he gives a bear hug, and I'm ashamed of myself that I reacted against that in the moment because I wasn't used to it. As a Spectrum boy, uh, physical contact isn't easy for me, and I'm ashamed of myself for that ever since. I wish I'd
You,
reacted better.
I highly doubt you shouldn't feel ashamed for that, and
Mm.
I don't even think Kevin. I doubt that that bothered anybody.
Oh,
But
well.
it's okay. I'm sure
I
it'll be fine.
I am my own worst critic, but in the same, I would have that out there. He may see this at some point. Who's to say? Um, and I was in a very different space then. I was in a bit of a darker spot. I wasn't the best person then, uh, but I did successfully make a pitch for what became the Hollywood Babylon coloring book. And again, I
So
caught him at the
awesome.
right place, right time. I could tell you about how he directs, but that's another long story. Um, I also got to meet Grace face to face, and we still keep in touch, she and I.
That's
She is
so sweet. That's awesome.
truly a sweet and loving woman, and having a mother, she makes a good second unofficial mother at a stroke. Um,
That's beautiful.
and what else? The coloring book came. Because I wasn't in the best place, I didn't make it under the best of circumstances, but it got done. Then, as I predicted, Kevin continued to find things for me to do. The quick
Yeah.
book, the quick stops covers came from that. Everything else came from that. And as of this year, I've done 3 of those. I hope to continue to be, yeah, there they are. I hope to continue to be tapped for more.
I hope so
Um,
too.
I am not without things to do for Kevin right now, but um, I shall not tell. Um, and I am, between the two of us, preparing a pitch of my own again for something a bit more ambitious.
Ooh,
And I don't know if he'll ever look at it, um, but hopefully he will. And hopefully more still, he
that's
may
so
say, let's
exciting.
go with it.
That's so exciting.
I have
I hope that pitch obviously goes amazing for you. Whatever you got cooking up there.
I don't know whether it will because for so many reasons, not the least of which is that the camera won't stay on. It's your biggest fan. No, there we go. There I am. There are so many things that could go astray with such a thing, and I've been preparing it for more than a year. Um, and the sources from which it draws um, are varied, and it's extremely complicated to prepare. The best hint I can give you is that you will need to watch Yoga Hosers again. And you can get it on Peacock. If not, there are other places to watch it.
Oh, I own Yoga Hosers on
Oh,
Blu-ray. I,
You
I,
and me
I
both.
yes, I am a physical media guy. Obviously, I buy even just the
Well,
single issue comics and stuff. I am very much so into physical media. But yes, yoga
oh,
hosers,
same, same. Why do you think the big library?
right?
I was raised in the pre-Google image search era, and as good as that is, as helpful as that is, I would still say that for extremely specialized reference images, you need coffee table books or just that right turn of phrase at the right time. Books, books, young man. Read
Yeah.
a lot and more than just comic books. But
Right. So I didn't like I knew about the coloring book. I did not know about the submissions of like I knew Hollywood Babylon like took in submissions for art and everything like that because even when like I even found like a weird funny like fan art like poster of what is it? The Flash from the 90s. It was Linda Carter Wonder Woman and it was Adam West Batman as like the original like Justice League. Oh, and then they had obviously Christopher Reeve Superman as like these four as like the Justice League that never was. And I remember sending that in, and Ralph was like, "This is awesome." Sending that into the Hollywood Babylon Gmail. What
you sent a piece in yourself?
No, it wasn't
Oh,
mine. Like I'm not an artist. I can't
oh.
draw or anything like that. It was literally some fan art that I saw, and I was like, I need to send this in because I don't know if Ralph has seen it. And he was like, "This is great." I was like, "I want to be clear. I did not make this. This is not mine. This is somebody else's art, but it's just like too good." Um, but that's so cool. That's how like that happened. Like work, reaching out consistently, being like, "Hey, I've got this. I've got that. Check that out." And that's actually one thing for anyone out there who's a writer or artist as well. Something that I've also heard from my writing friends that being presently like persistent but like respectful in it is like is a big key. Like, reach out, be like make sure they remember you or whatever, but don't be mean about it.
Mm. The world is packed to the gills with fans possessed of a sense of entitlement that they have no right to.
Right.
Any Star Wars fan will tell you that. Yeesh.
Yep.
Um, and remember that you're a professional in this. You know, that's what one of the reasons why you have to be polite about this. You have to mean business when you do business.
Absolutely.
And for artists, professionalism is difficult. We're off in our right brains, and business is a left brain thing. Um, it's extremely difficult, but it has to happen. And the ideal artist in this environment is one that can do both, that can manage both sides of their brain equally. And it can burn your brain out. But do you want to be out there or don't you? Then get out there and sweat.
Right.
You know.
So I've got one final question for you here before we wrap this up. My
Mm,
last question for you is: do you have a piece of advice that you have now that you wish you had when you first started out? For
mm,
any new artist, creative, anything like that? Is there something that you have learned over the course of your career that you know now that you wish you knew at the start?
mm. You mean aside from persistence? Because that seems to be the mantra that I wish I'd have known then. Um, that's certainly the first and foremost one. There's also don't wait for inspiration to hit you. Sometimes you have to go and find it. And sometimes you have to flog your own brain and body in order to do it. Uh, Waiting for things to happen fails. Making them happen quite often succeeds. It has a better chance of succeeding than not. There's a better chance of succeeding than not doing anything at all. Push until it gives. And because you have to be gentle and steady about it, because you have to be polite about it, it will not give for a while. And you better have a support structure that is willing to be there for you. In this case, I thank my wife Yvette, without which I can't do a damn thing.
Same.
I can't do a thing without my family. Both the family that bore me and the one that I ended up marrying into. My children and grandchildren. Uh, I can't believe I have that, but I'm 53, I have to accept that. Um, your friends, and yes, the people that decide that they like your work. And I might add that Ralph and Kevin are support structures in their way. A little word of encouragement from Kevin means wonders. The old saying, horses do wonders with a little kindness. And you have to be a capable and willing workhorse.
Yeah.
It's simple as that. That's the only advice I can give that means a damn, that has any practical use. The world is filled with inspired geniuses who are, as Heinrich Heine puts it, kings in the airy kingdom of dreams. But that's not enough. You also have to get out there and scratch and continue and push and persist. I mean, you could probably have a drinking game in this episode with how much I say persist, or gentle, steady pressure, or so on and so forth. And you would die of alcohol poisoning before the interview was over. But what else can I recommend that has any value except that? Work. Work hard. Work hard again, harder even. But do it. Take a break for yourself. Care for yourself, of course. But persist.
Persist. Well, Erik, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. I want to
Mm.
thank you for joining me today. For everyone at home, we hope please like and subscribe to our video, to our channel. We hope you all stay safe. And this has been a pleasure. Erik, go ahead and say goodbye to everybody.
Well, I thank you all for the time you were willing to give me today and for allowing me to ramble as I have. Should I plug myself in some fashion?
Always.
Hmm. Well, if you want to see my website, it would be www.cygnusarstinc.com, cygnusartsinc.com. And my email, should I give that out? Probably.
If people want to reach, if that's the best way, if people want to get you involved with a commission or some work,
Yes.
then I would say absolutely.
Now, I need to warn people in advance that the people at Earthlink, when they established my email decades ago, did what most people did and screwed my name up. Um, so, and it was quicker than arguing to just take it. I probably wouldn't have today, since you ask about things I didn't know then that I would love to have been able to know. My email is ERIC, P as in Paul, F as in Frank, at earthlink.net. ERICPF at earthlink.net. And if you want to commission me for something, you can reach me there. You can DM me in Messenger on my Facebook page, Erik John Pflueger. John is my father's name and my middle name. And there are several ways to reach me. Um, I am open to any serious inquiries. And if there's something I can do with my art that would make people happy, I'm happy to do it for a price.
Absolutely. So, Erik, I can't thank you enough for joining us. Again, everybody at home, thank you for joining. Please like and subscribe to our video and to our channel. We hope you all stay safe and, enjoy the arts, support the arts, and
Mhm.
see ya.